Well then, I think we'll begin. Stand by for a roller coaster of a ride. We are doing a wrap-up session, a phenomenally exciting wrap-up session. We have 4 chaps on stage at the moment. I'll ask them to introduce themselves. They are luminaries. That is, that they are bloggers, industry blog. I think that's a fair comment to make. They do have other jobs as well. And we are going to do a crowdsourced wrap-up. Now then, a crowdsourced wrap-up requires a crowd. So what I think we will do is an intimate crowdsourced wrap-up. I am Ewan. I am editor of Mobile Industry Review, so I'm also a blogger. I've been at the event the whole time and been having a great experience. Could I ask each of the chaps here just to give us a quick introduction? Stuart, first of all, who are you and what do you do?
I was hoping to crowd surf, but that's gone out the window.
Later on.
My name's Stuart. I'm a journalist and blogger and writer. I work for The Guardian, The Sunday Times, Mobile Entertainment, Music Ally, and other people writing about apps, entertainment, content, and technology. And my main single transferable skill is slouching in a chair and typing very fast. So I've been doing the live blogs here at MIP with Angela, covering some of the sessions as well.
And by doing live blogging, just so we're aware, what does that mean?
Slouching in a chair, typing very fast.
Okay, okay, excellent. And are you being live blogged right now? Are we being?
Yes, we are. Yeah. So the MIP blog has reports on some of the key sessions where it's kind of a what was said, the key points, who said them, for the benefit of people who weren't here or people who were here and want to come back later for reference. So there's a bunch of them on the site.
So we do need some memorable quotes that can be tweeted and blogged, right? Cedric, could you give us an overview? Who are you?
I'm the co-editor of Techcrunch Friends. Perhaps you guys know Techcrunch, one of the leading tech blogs covering startups. We're not that big. We're a few part of Techcrunch. We're covering French startups and French tech news. And yeah, I think that's it. And that's my night and weekend activities, and during days I'm working for Seesmic.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Smith, Ben Smith.
Hello, I'm the founder and editor of the Really Mobile Project, a consumer mobile blog in the UK, but I also, like Cedric, I have to earn the money from somewhere else, so I'm an innovation consultant working in mobile technology in the UK.
Brilliant, and Mr. Blanford.
Hello, I'm Rafe Blanford. I'm probably best known for my site All About Symbian, but as a blogger I write about Nokia and smartphones and kind of all the technologies that are encompassed within that ecosystem.
Gotcha. So format today is, as I said, crowdsourced, an intimate crowdsourced event. By that I mean please come up and storm the stage. Okay, how
Diane, the session in Diane is just closing.
is it? Right, brilliant. Okay, well, this is the exclusive section of the event. What we're going to do is, if you're okay with it, I've got a couple of prompts for these gents to get them going. And then if you have a question or an observation, please stick your hand up and let's stick it to these guys and also to the rest of the audience. Now, when I say stick it to these guys, if you have any horrible questions, this is precisely the guys to put them to. I'd like to see them squirm if at all possible. And we have some interesting ideas in my mind that I'm going to be prompting them. But to begin with, a gentle one, Stuart, gentle one. To give us just one highlight, not the highlight, but just give us a highlight that comes to mind from this event.
I suppose one thing that I've been really excited about is the way that in the wider show as well as here, digital is now part of the creative process and not just part of the marketing process. So people are talking about TV shows, they're talking about digital right from the start, and actually the people who are making the shows, the directors, the storytellers, are quite excited about what they can do, and I could do all the bingo buzzwords like transmedia and so on. But the fact that the people who make TV, make games, make music are thinking about digital as part of their creative. I mean, that was quite enheartening to see.
Good news. Now, Cedric, you flew in this morning. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
What have you found interesting so far? Have you managed to get to the Experience Hub yet?
Yeah, I did a bit actually.
Good news.
Now, what what I will keep in mind is that people from this industry keep partying and love parties, and that's perhaps one of the reasons why there are such a few people this morning attending the conference. It's because of the party of yesterday, so that's perhaps one of the things I'll keep in mind.
Okay. Ben, you were on the Meet the Bloggers session yesterday in the Experience Hub. That was where Matthias, who sadly can't be with us, Matthias from VentureBeat silenced everybody in the Experience Hub by saying every single television or content producer here is a roadkill. And he just said, and then handed the microphone over. Ben, what was your perspective on that?
He's right, but he needs to be more measured in his explanation. I think the point Matthias was making was that traditional forms of broadcast, the trading of content as we see it at this show, the idea that sort of traditional media organisations are going to continue to exist in purely a creating content and then distributing it format, it doesn't work. All of the sessions that have excited me have been about how people have explained, Yanni Block, for example, and the first day is an Israeli startup. He explains that when you interact with the media, you're far more engaged. He had this great stat. He said, if you take a YouTube video, most viewers won't watch 70%. I think everybody had sort of dropped out by 70% in terms of the stats. But then when you made it interactive and you were able to click in and have some degree of engagement, the average behaviour was to watch 3 times end to end. And that explains to us actually why this part of the event was important. And I think that when Matthias says you're roadkill, he only means if you don't change and evolve and incorporate the ideas that are being presented by some people who are outside of traditional media.
I think it's a kind of a good roadkill analogy too, is that roadkill is something that gets in the way, in between the road and a car, and that's bad news for an animal. Maybe the people who are roadkill, the people who are getting in between the people who make the content, have the ideas, and people who watch it. I don't like the word consumers, people. I mean, that's from the people who are getting in the way of that direct relationship. They're the ones who maybe have most to fear and most to change.
Well, Rafe, this morning I was watching a chap, in fact I interviewed a guy on camera, talking about pirating. I can't for the life of me remember, was it Mason? Matt Mason, is that right? Mason's in there somewhere. Really interesting presentation about piracy, and he was saying that wherever you see piracy in media, that shows latent demand from the consumer. Rafe, what's your viewpoint on how the TV industry is handling piracy, handling content distribution, particularly in the context of your experience with mobile?
I think it's difficult to give one definite answer to that, but one characteristic I would describe is it's very often due to friction in some process, and most often in the case of content that's about distribution. It can also be about the business models and the purchase price involved, and I think a lot of the piracy that is a concern is really about that efficiency of distribution, or it becomes too difficult to do, so people choose to do it another way. And as soon as you make it easier or more efficient for them to do it in the right way, if you will, then that becomes desirable to do so. But I also think it's about the establishment of new business models, and particularly one of the highlights I've seen here, I think, is the idea of things happening across segments. And traditionally we've seen, it's TV, it's mobile, and now we're getting tablet or internet, and they've existed very much in silos, and so you've had content specifically produced for TV, for mobiles, for the internet. And I think in order for that to happen more effectively in the future, they shouldn't be siloized, they should be part of a connected whole. And particularly with the interactivity that Ben was talking about, you need to use the appropriate segment to drive that interaction at both the pre-production stages Stuart talked about, and then sort of during the watching experience. And so the sessions that have focused on that, I think, have been the most interesting because they demonstrate the most potential. I think the danger is that the TV industry sometimes think it's about those other formats saving TV. Actually, it's about all of those segments working together to be the future of content distribution, interactivity, and entertainment as a whole.
And we picked up on this in the blogger session, and I stole Rafe's idea and made it into a soundbite, so I have to give credit. But it was interesting. I went to Barcelona and to Mobile World Congress, which you might be aware is sort of 80,000 people from the mobile and telecoms industry meeting to talk about their business. And in their world, they talk about second screen enthusiastically, and the second screen is the television. They come to this conference and they discuss the second screen enthusiastically, and the second screen is the mobile or the tablet device. And both communities in splendid isolation believe that the other will support or underpin or rescue their business. And actually, I think it's a bit more connected than that, exactly as Rafe was saying.
Right, now, for those who are just joining us, this is the crowdsourced wrap-up, the interactive crowdsourced wrap-up. We have people here, and I need a question from somebody. Now, I have a ton of questions in my mind for these gentlemen. I'd like a question or a comment or a perspective. Go ahead. Oh, wait, there's a microphone coming.
I don't need one. Everybody can hear me. What, for you guys, is the most overused and annoying word right now that you're hearing that in the tech space? What's the one word that pisses you off because it actually doesn't mean anything, or that people overuse? What is it?
Innovation. Okay. If you walk around your average tech or media event, every staid, boring, traditional, unimaginative, poorly priced, badly licensed, ill-distributed product has the word innovative slapped on the side. Innovation is not the facet of a product. It's something that happens before that. Consumers don't buy innovation. Innovation make products that consumers find appealing. And if you are falling back on describing your product as innovative to your end consumers or users, and bear in mind I have a very technology-centric view of the world, so I'm thinking about mobile devices and things as well, the iPad is not innovative. Some of the things in it, some of the reasons it came to the market might be, but if you think the iPad is innovation, go and sit very quietly in a corner and think about your life.
I'd like to say connected creativity wasn't innovative at all.
Cedric, do you have a viewpoint?
Yeah, I have two words in mind. One I'm using is community. It's community management, communities everywhere. It's something every brand or every startups, every service wants or thinks they will have a community. So that's the first one, and I forgot the second one I had in mind, but I...
We can come
Yeah.
back. Yeah. Stuart, what's your word or words?
Well, every company that sends me a press release is market leading. It's maybe time for that to go. But I sort of mentioned consumers earlier on, and all the talk at this show has been about how people don't just sit there and passively consume stuff anymore. They interact with it. And I'm not sure I suppose the best word for that is people. When you can say they co-create, and I always think that sounds a bit slightly wanky. But just talking about people rather than consumers, I think that'd be a very healthy thing.
Yeah, I found the second one. It's dating. I don't know why, but in France, we got so many startups or new projects going in the dating field. New dating services with Facebook, or you date because you're looking at the same TV show, or because you have a husband and or a wife, but you want another story. So it's a specific dating service for this kind of people. Not anymore, please. No dating service.
I think I'm going to choose two words as well to cheat slightly. One of them is open, and that's just because every service and every product seems to be open, but there's no granularity in that because there's always a great deal of variation within it. And so it seems to be much like market leading or innovation. It just seems to be something that's put on as a tick mark. And so I'd like to see people use a bit more imagination and find another way of describing openness in their particular product. And the other one is slightly tongue-in-cheek, but connected, which is, I shouldn't really say it at this conference, but actually there's a reason for that. And I would say that because we should just be assuming everything is connected. It shouldn't be necessary to even use the word, because it should just be like breathing. It should be there all the time in everything, because it's just such a basic part of what things will be in the future, that to even sort of talk about it as something new and innovative is rather depressing, because it says that we've got too far to go.
We have a question here.
No, it's not a. It's
a point.
kind of
a
an
comment.
awful question. Noah, you the one who last spoke. Can you repeat your full name, because I think the moderator said your last name, but I didn't get the first one, and I wanted to.
Certainly, I'm Rafe Blanford, and that's R-A-F-E.
Thank you.
Are you doing the live blogging?
Stuart wanted to do it, but I told him to focus on the session.
Go, okay, cool. Now, do we have any questions bubbling?
How about engagement?
Oh, right. So, yeah, okay. How about engagement as an annoying word? Could we have the microphone? Sorry, No. You
right,
give us
by
a
the way.
viewpoint. Tell us about engagement. Why is that annoying?
We hear that everywhere, so it's kind of boring. It's the same as connected or whatever. But there's a lot of variations in engagement with consumers. There's lightweight engagement, heavyweight engagement. There's loyalty, how engagement brings loyalty or not. These are big questions.
This product is engaging.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
So it's a big buzzword.
Being a non-media person, I know the idea of lean forward and lean back media is maybe an old idea, but it's sort of not something I've come across particularly regularly. But I'm always confused when I hear media organisations use those words, because it suggests that you only evaluate lean forward or lean back at the time that you're consuming the media, because even traditionally in TV, you would lean back to consume, and then round the water cooler the next morning, you would lean forward and engage and communicate. And so I think you need to look at the whole life cycle of people's relationship with media that they're either creating or consuming.
People lean forward and shout at their TV as well. So it kind of makes it, doesn't really describe the experience of what you do when you're watching.
It's a shame that people don't sort of fit into nice pigeonholes in that way, is it?
Right. Well, I have another prompt for you, Jen. If you've got something to say or a comment, and ideally something that would, challenge these gentlemen, please just get my attention. My next prompt for you, Stuart, I'm going to pick on you first. You're a tech journalist, right? Technology, so not content or television. Therefore, can you give me your opinion on the television content industry? How good, screwed up? What's your viewpoint on it?
Wow. Well, I write about the music industry quite a lot. And the TV industry, you can tell a lot of people are trying to learn those lessons that music's learned over the last 10 years that have been quite tough. There's lots of creative people, and I suppose this whole thing is about getting creative people to do their stuff and find a way to make money, but also find to connect to people. So, I don't know really. I mean, the exciting thing about it is meeting all these people. I've met loads of TV producers talking about their ideas, and I met some people who were pitching formats here, and that was really fascinating. And then kind of saw a couple of sessions where you maybe had a broadcaster talking who was talking about imposing rules on things and things that shouldn't be allowed, and kind of seeming a little bit more we're the barrier to some of this cool stuff happening. And I think that's the case in any industry. There's people who have got stuff to protect and are very fearful. And one of the best quotes, and I can't remember who said it, was this idea of the thing that stops you is fear, because the longer you spend fearing, I can't remember who said it, and I wrote about it, and it's on the line somewhere. The longer you fear, the less time you're spending doing something that's cool. And so I think it's like any creative industry. There's people who are fearful and becoming barriers, but there are lots of people who are excited as well, so they're good and bad.
Cedric, from your external viewpoint, do you think there's a lot of fear going on?
I will use the word underused for content, for TV content. I mean, these guys, they have gold in their hands. People have never watched that much hours per day TV. It's not, TV won't die. It's not the topic, but they could do much better using mobile, using digital, using social network, using everything that's our world now. So I think it's underused.
Ben, what's your view on this TV industry?
I think the thing that I've just come from the Innovative Startup session, and the thing that struck me was all the companies there were actually thinking about different ways to distribute, to consume the media, and actually those people who are going to be most successful in my mind will be the people who see past the constraints of today, past the need to form a 27-minute episode that is licensed to a broadcaster in a geography. I mean, yes, that's today's problem, and when we have to deal with it. But actually, those startups are connecting the content creator directly with the audience rather than through some broadcast medium, through some licensing authority. And actually, people who look at those and the ideas and the opportunities that emerge, not just the interactive piece I mentioned earlier, but also the idea that your content can be shaped by the ideas that these firms, primarily in the technology space, have. I mean, we looked at sort of content curation, we looked at content discovery, we looked at content interaction. that's where successful content producers will have their best ideas inspired by these enabling technologies.
I'd agree with everything that's been said so far, and I'm trying to think of something new to say. So I'll take two things. I mean, I come largely from a mobile which is very technology-led, and it has surprised me some of the inefficiencies in the kind of distribution of content that still seem to exist within this industry, many of which are, surrounded in the frame of what is no longer relevant, particularly in the digital world, the things like geographic boundaries or format issues. Hearing that a company may have to produce 50 or 60 different digital versions of the same thing to satisfy different distributors seems completely mad, when there must be a way of reducing the efficiencies, or, as we talked about earlier, reducing the friction. And the other thing was, although I'm seeing lots of really interesting ideas, and the potential that's out there is really incredible around distribution and devices, smart connected TVs, I'm not sure I've seen that quite so transferred over to the production process itself, which, as Ben was suggesting there, is still tied into very much episodic formats designed for one particular medium. And I think the real potential is to break out of the frames that exist within TV, to then start thinking about how you can produce content in a way that is transmedia, to use one of those horrible buzzwords.
I think I just got a house, actually. I've had the full set now.
There we go. So when I say that, I'm thinking about mobile, web, and particularly the interactivity part in terms of socialness and interaction should be inherent in any production stage, and should actually be thought about in pre-production. It shouldn't be an add-on, it should be integral. And to be fair, there are lots of people talking about the ideas around that. I'm just not seeing as much in terms of concrete innovations from companies on display here, but maybe that's coming.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to put you on the spot again.
Oh, excellent.
5 words, or 1, 2, 3, 4 words at least, we should be hearing more of, and that you expect us to hear a lot more of in the next 12 months, and then by then they'll be the words that you hate again. But tell us those 5 words, or 4 or 5 words.
Go on then, Rafe. Real time, come on.
Real time. Excellent question as I introduce a delaying tactic. First word, mobile. As someone from a mobile perspective, I still think it's being underutilized. It will be the primary device through which digital content is consumed. So mobile, and that's not just for the next 12 months, but that's for the next decade. Then I would say location, in that there isn't much of a tie with the physical world. And that's something I think we could see more of. So I'm then going to pass on to someone else while I think of a couple of other words.
You stole my location one, actually. I want to say something about sensing, which is the idea that at the moment the television is a medium purely to display material, and we get very excited about mobile devices. You think, oh, this is great because people will consume stuff in different places, and now they've got a touch screen, so now they interact with it. But actually, it's got a GPS sensor and a proximity sensor and a magnetometer, which shows, a compass effectively, and it knows the orientation. And I saw some devices recently that know how stressed you are. They can detect your wellness using simple medical pieces. I saw it was a health-based application, but it actually understands your state of mind as well, and it can monitor the reactions. The whole point is that now there are all of these inputs beyond just finger touch, that will actually enable you to interact with content.
Could you get to a point whereby you say, I'm feeling stressed, therefore give me some content that will
Well, actually, I'm thinking,
me?
for me, the thing that was interesting was that the way you interacted with the content varied based on how stressed you were. So, for example, when I am very stressed and I'm trying to work my way through maybe a menu structure or something, take away the advertising, take away some of the intrusions. When I'm relaxed, I'm more maybe interested in having some kind of input, then put it back in. And actually, there are devices in our pockets now. If you put your finger over the lens of the iPhone, it can detect your pulse and take measurements which you can interpret stress levels and heartbeat and things like that. Pretty crude, but actually the devices in our pockets can do it now. Imagine in 12 months what will happen.
Cedric, what words have you got?
An easy one, curation. It's starting with a web So a lot of content providers or startups want to see what they can do with this word, with this concept of curation. For the guys that are not familiar with curation, it's a way of using the content that exists and organize it and files this in a new way. So giving a new life to content. It's one type of use. And as part of curation, I will add personalization. Because it's on the web, in the web industry, it's an old concept, but it's something that didn't change the TV industry in my mind. I mean, I would like to have my own TV channel. It's something that we're talking since years, but it doesn't exist yet.
Okay, I thought of two. Curiosity was my first one. I think people in every content industry should be really curious about what's going on. They should be getting out to meet developers, going along to hack days, going and seeing what other industries are doing. So for TV guys, what are the music guys doing, what are the film guys doing, what are the book guys doing? Really kind of just looking to see what's happening, because all these things can provide lessons and ideas. And I suppose following on from that was experimentation. So trying these things out. I mean, the Warner Bros. Thing of renting movies on Facebook is kind of essentially an experiment and a really interesting one. And more of that kind of stuff of people saying, right, well, we could do this with this new thing, and we don't know if it's going to work, we're going to try. I think now's the time to fling ideas out there and not waste loads of money, but just be curious and try and sling a few things at the wall and see what sticks.
There was a fascinating comment, and I wish I could attribute it, by somebody who pointed out that it takes 3 to 6 months to negotiate a licensing deal on some content, typically, and then went on to point out that Groupon was as his example, had been formed, started and grew to its existing size in about 12 months, and that idea of, stop waiting, execute, see what happens was a sense of urgency.
I've had a chance to think about it, so I'll give one extra one, which is crowdfunding. And this is the idea that you could actually start to commission TV series by appealing directly to your audience to fund them. And actually, I think there's a specific use case on this. Is sometimes we see series cancelled for particular reasons that are often around network politics or something like that. And there's a very strong fan base out there, and it's increasing all the time, and we'll do more so with interactivity. So I think we're not that far off from seeing the first series that's cancelled saved by its audience, who will then crowdfund it. And I think that has an enormous amount of potential, because it very much shifts the power dynamics in the industry, and it sort of ties in with a lot of what Stuart was then saying about experimentation. It could be very interesting and very disruptive, and as we all know, disruption is ultimately the way that new business models get created and where new funding comes from, and survivability suddenly increases.
Who was that guy who did Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Josh Whedon.
And that show, was it Firefly?
Yes.
They did it, and there was a huge rage, wasn't there, when it was cancelled? And you think if that happened right now, he could go out and say, pay me $20 and we'll make another series, and that would be amazing, isn't it? It's like just in a couple of years to go with that.
Absolutely, and with digital distribution, it suddenly becomes a lot easier to say, right, pay me $20 and the next episode of the new series, which is web only or digital only, suddenly arrives on demand, if you will.
I'd really like to see that. I really like the Sarah Connor Chronicles. Did you ever see the Terminator series, the TV series? Cancelled that, canned Firefly, canned Stargate Universe. These are all...
You can tell we're technologists from this list of cancelled series.
Sorry, it does sound a bit... But,
I think you need to mention Next Top Model or something just to redress the balance.
Next Top Model.
It's your favourite, is it, Rafe?
But I'm the guy that I buy all my stuff on iTunes, just because it's easy and frictionless for me. And I'm the one that just says, $17.99, buy. And they just download. And I like that. So I'm furious that I can't just get the next series or just say, look, how much money do you need? Is it 10 million, 100 million? What do you need to put your show on? And we'll take care of that. And these idiot TV execs, just move them out, because they're not delivering now. In that I wanted more of that. That was my little crowdsourced bit.
You're seeing that happen with bands already as well, I think.
Sorry, we have, just before we have, is that a question or right, Andrew, we'll come to you. Go ahead.
No, but with regard to this idea of a show being saved by the crowd, in the event that the crowd was actually able to raise enough money, because you see stuff like Kickstarter where producers and directors are actually starting to do this now, where would it live?
Amazon.
Well, I was going to say that one of the reasons that I think that these sessions are interesting is that actually we're not talking about the distribution of things. We just assume that it's going to be online. Just assume that it's going to be available to all geographies. Just assume that the content creator can, wants anybody in any geography to consume it. And as long as we have the basics, like some way to prevent, sort of the piracy of that, which they're out there. Those technologies exist and they'll continue to mature. That's just a commodity product. It'll exist online, and you'll be able to have it anywhere you want, and you'll no longer be, reliant on a broadcaster to say, yes, that's the right content for my geography.
Yeah, I mean, there's several ways to approach this. You could look at it from the fan point of view. They'd probably be willing to pay for it and then forget about it. But you might think about the idea of microfinancing, where you're getting a whole collective of people raising the funding, and then they get paid back if it's success, and it maybe gets put towards another project. And that sort of is, again, a fairly radical departure from the traditional funding approach. But yes, as Ben said, I would expect it to, in those instances, it's most likely to live in the cloud and potentially make extra money, or, I think it would inevitably in these circumstances, getting it entirely crowdfunded would be difficult, but seeing it as co-productions with crowdfunding an important part of it, I think would be the most likely first step.
I think it probably ends up back on TV as well. If there's a strong, passionate fan base and they show it by stumping up cash, then there'll be broadcasters who'll pick it up.
It's like bloggers who then write books. Yeah, so the bloggers say, I've got a big audience, therefore I'm going to make a book. And then they make a book and sell
or
a
a
lot.
national newspaper.
Yes, good point. Cedric, have you any viewpoints on that? What do you think about where the TV content could live, this crowdsourced TV content? I'm wondering, because the question was where could it live, and I think the cloud is fine, but where? I thought maybe Amazon could host this stuff, or because iTunes is only available in some specific geographies.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I'm not sure it has to be. I'm a digital guy, but it's not the answer to the problem to say it doesn't have to be on the network and to be distributed by the TV channel. TV channel have to find new ways to distribute it and on demand, and to listen to what communities and I said it was a word not to use communities. What audiences want to have on TV. So of course we can have it on the web, on platforms, on Amazon, on iTunes, on I don't know where, on new kind of platforms that could be created in the meantime. But I would love to have these TV channels just say, okay, this is a TV show where you are the most active doing on Twitter. So we will put it perhaps sooner on the timetable or something. Listening to the audiences. That's my answer.
It kind of ties into another thing I saw this show, which is a couple of examples. One is Moshi Monsters has 40 million people playing its game, paying it enough money for it to make its own TV to show on its website. So it's making TV, but hasn't got to get funding from outside. And Angry Birds is the other one, which thankfully has been mercifully kind of not everywhere this show, because it's been lots talked about. But Angry Birds are making enough money from selling mobile games and stuffed toys to fund their own TV content and then go and sell it to people. So you're getting these things that are built, these brands that are built off TV. Then they can come in and say, well, we've made the stuff, we've made the TV, do you want to buy it off us? And they're in a really strong position then. But that's not mean they're not going to go and talk to broadcasters or networks to get it on there. But they've got a lot more, they can choose. So that's kind of one trend. I'm going to ramble off now. Someone jump in and save me.
Well, I was going to say, we talk in a world of absolutes, especially when you bloggers, you're invited to sort of think about, way in the future. But actually, maybe one of the intermediate steps is that TV channels continue to exist. They are content curators, and we talked about the value of curation. But because of the digital technologies, I can subscribe to television channels for wherever I am. So if I like the content that's being commissioned and produced by a US broadcaster, then I can subscribe as someone who lives in the UK, or if I live in France. And in that intermediate step, before I have a direct relationship with the content producer and buy it from them directly, I can actually I can give my money to what would today be a broadcaster, and they will commission the shows I like in the traditional model, except that their view is the whole world rather than just the geography they service.
Nice. We had a question, Andrew, yes.
During the .com boom, disruptive business models that were deeply subversive popped up about every week and turned out never to subvert or disrupt anything. Over the last couple of years in the mobile and media area, we have had a couple. I mean, the iPhone and the iPad have been truly disruptive, and Facebook has turned out to be truly subversive. Listening in the corridors here, just from what you've heard, have you heard anything disruptive or subversive?
I think he was very keen to play this down, but I think Facebook becoming a distribution channel for TV is quite disruptive and subversive, and they're very keen on saying, obviously, we're doing it in partnership with broadcasters, but 500 million people on a social network and people making content, and that now becoming a way not just to promote it so you watch it elsewhere, but watch it on there and buy it on there with virtual currency. I think that's very interesting. And the fact that there's also startups around that doing stuff, so that Warner Bros. Thing was done by a startup working with Warner Bros. So that company was disruptive, I think, in a good way.
And just before we end, gents, any further disruptive points?
I think there is a danger of labelling something as disruptive when it's not. It's one of those buzzwords. But I think probably some of the all-you-can-eat subscriptions, of which there have been a couple of companies talking in the corridors, and Zowser, and I think there's another one. The name I forget. But when you're paying maybe €10 a month for as much free music, free movies, free TV shows, free games as you want. And I think those kind of subscription models, which then enable streaming onto any device you like, I think that's probably the next big disruptive thing for me.
Brilliant. Well, I have to end there, so I'd like to thank everybody for your attention, and gents, thank you for your time as well. Thank you.